this week we are going to talk about the market system and the circular flow. Let's start with a short, brief introduction. Let's say you are at the mall and suppose you are assigned to compile a list of all the individual goods and services there, including the different brands and variations of each type of product. As you see, this task can be very overwhelming because the list can go very long, and even though it's a single shopping mall, it may contain a remarkable quantity and variety of goods, and it's as you know, this shopping mall is a very tiny part of the national economy. So in this chapter, we are trying to find answers like who decided that particular goods and services available at the mall, and how did the producers determine which technology and types of resources to use in producing this particular goods, or who will obtain these products, what accounts for the new and improved products among these goods. So let's start with the definition of system. What is an economic system? A particular set of institutional arrangements and a coordinating mechanism. We need economic system. Why we need economic system? Because we need to respond to the economizing problem. I will talk about three important main economic systems, starting with the laissez-faire capitalism. In laissez-faire capitalism, government intervention is at a very minimum, and markets and prices are allowed to direct nearly all economic activity. This is one extreme, laissez-faire capitalism, and on the other extreme, we will talk about command system, in which governments have total control over all economic activity. And the vast majority of national economies lie somewhere in the middle, utilizing some mixture of centralized government regulation and the decentralized markets and prices. We call these systems and market systems or mixed economies. Let's start with the laissez-faire economy. It is the economy that you may call it as pure capitalism. The government's role would be limited to protecting private property from theft or from aggression. And the government is establishing a legal environment in which the contracts would be enforced, and for that reason people can interact with each other, buy and sell, because they are protected. And it's important to note here that no society has ever employed a laissez-faire system. In fact, no government has ever limited its economic actions to the list of laissez-faire capitalism, like protecting the property rights. So in history, every government has undertaken a wider range of decisions, economic decisions, like taxing people, subsidizing needy people, like you can think about achieving the income distribution, equal income distribution, or safety regulations for workers, or prospering the economic growth. These kind of things all are important economic decisions are taken by government. The next system is the command system. It's the polar opposite of laissez-faire capitalism. And in this system, government owns most property resources, and economic decision-making is set by a central economic plan, which is created and enforced by the government. Maybe you don't hear about command system, but if I say socialism or communism, you will understand what I'm talking about. Under the command system, a central planning board appointed by the government makes all the decisions, concerning the use of resources, the composition and distribution of output, and the organization of product. So the government owns all the business firms, which produce according to government directives. And the Central Planning Board determines production goals for each enterprise and specifies the amount of resources to be allocated to each enterprise so that it can reach its production goal. The government determines how much you need to produce. You have a target, and the government also redistributes the resources to make this target available. And but it's important to note here that in reality, even the preeminent command economy like Soviet Union tolerated some private ownership and incorporated some markets before its collapse in 1992. So there is maybe not perfect command system, but the most of the decisions, you may see a system like most of the decisions are made by government. When you look at today, North Korea and Cuba are still having this centralized planned economies. And other countries using mainly command system include Turkmenistan, Laos, Belarus, Myanmar, and Iran. And the last, the mixture of these two, market system. It's a mix of decentralized decision making with some government control. And in the market system, individuals and businesses seek to achieve their economic goals through their own decision regarding work, consumption, or production. The system allows for private ownership, so the government is not the only owner of the property. And the market system coordinates and communicates through the prices, and this prices coordinates economic activity through the markets. Markets, as you know, the places that buyers and sellers come together and buy and sell goods, services, and resources. And in the market economy, participants act in their own self-interest, and goods and services are produced and resources are supplied by whoever is willing and able to do so. So the result is competition among independently acting buyers and sellers of each product and resources in an economic system in which decision making is widely dispersed. The market system also offers high potential monetary rewards that create powerful incentives for existing firms to innovate and for entrepreneurs to pioneer new products. And when you look at that, United States has the market system, and as you know from here, we can talk about the government plays a substantial role in the economy. It not only provides the rules for economic activity, but also promotes economic stability and growth, provides certain goods and services that would otherwise be underproduced or not produced at all, and modifies the distribution of income. Let's now look at the characteristics of the market system. First of all, private property. As I said, in command system, the property is owned by the government, but in market system, there is a private property. So private individuals and firms, not the government, own most of the property resources, land and capital. It is the extensive private ownership of capital that gives capitalism its name. Okay, this right of private property, coupled with the freedom to negotiate binding legal contracts, enables individuals and business to obtain, use, and dispose of property resources as they see fit. The most important consequence of property right is that they encourage people to cooperate by helping to ensure that only mutually agreeable economic transactions take place. So what does that mean? Nobody can take a property from you by force. There should be, both sides should benefit from that transaction. And property rights also encourage investment, innovation, exchange, maintenance of property, and economic growth. Nobody would stock a store, build a factory, or clear land for farming if someone else or the government itself could take that property for his or her own benefit. That's the reason we want private property and a legal environment for the private property. And also private property and property rights extend to intellectual property through patents, copyrights, and trademarks. Such long-term protection encourages people to write books, music, and computer programs. And then next we will talk about the freedom of enterprise. In market economies, we have freedom of enterprise and freedom of choice. And freedom of enterprise ensures that entrepreneurs and private business are free to obtain and use economic resources to produce their choice of goods and services and to sell them in their chosen markets. And freedom of choice enables owners to employ or dispose of their property and money as they see fit. And it allows also workers to try to enter any line of work for which they are qualified. And finally, it ensures that consumers are free to buy the goods and services that best satisfy their wants and their budget allow. And the next important thing about the market, characteristics of market, is the self-interest. And self-interest is the motivating force of the various economic units as they express their free choices. Self-interest simply means that each economic unit tries to achieve its own particular goal. Let me give an example. Entrepreneurs try to maximize profit or minimize loss. Property owners try to get the highest price for the sale or for rent of their resources. Or workers try to maximize their satisfaction by finding jobs that offer the best combination of wage, hours, benefits, and working conditions. And consumers try to obtain the product they want at the lowest possible price, and given that they have a budget, and they maximize their satisfaction. So as you see, every agent, every unit in the economy follows their self-interest. And this self-interest may lead to the competition. One of the important characteristics of market system is competition. The basis of this competition is freedom of choice, exercised in pursuit of a monetary return. So very broadly defined, competition requires first 2 or more buyers and 2 or more sellers acting independently in a particular product or resource market. And competition among buyers and sellers diffuses economic power within the business and households that make up the economy. When there are many buyers and sellers acting independently, no one can dominate the price. No one can dominate in the market. That is one of the important things that the competition requires. The second one is freedom of sellers and buyers to enter or leave markets on the basis of their economic self-interest. So competition also implies that producers can enter and leave an industry, and there are no barriers prevent industries expanding or contracting. The diffusion of economic power inherent in competition limits the potential abuse of that power. A producer that charges more than the competitive market price will lose sales to other producers. An employer who pays less than the competitive market wage rate will lose workers to other employers. As you see here, there is nobody dictating the market, and you follow the market rules. And the next characteristics of the market system is the markets and prices. So you may wonder that why an economy based on self-interest doesn't collapse in chaos. If consumers want breakfast cereal but business chooses to produce running shoes, and then there's going to be a problem because the production would seem to be deadlocked by the apparent inconsistencies of free choices. But in reality, millions of decisions made by households and businesses are highly coordinated with one another by market and prices, which are key components of the market system. Okay, so this is important because let me try to clarify this. Just as competition is a regulatory mechanism of market system, the market system itself is the organizing and coordinating mechanism. So if people want to buy breakfast cereals and the businesses are actually producing running shoes, then as you see, the cereal prices are going to increase in the market. Why this is the case? Because people want to buy business cereal, breakfast cereal. And when they look for a cereal, they will not find too much because business is not producing. So they will demand, and because of this demand and too less supply of this good, the price will increase for the breakfast cereal. But at the other hand, the businesses that are producing running shoes will make a loss because the problem here is that they cannot sell their product. So as you see, the market gives a signal to the producers through the prices, and those who respond to market signals and hit market dictates are rewarded with greater profit and income, like businesses who can see that signal start producing breakfast cereal, and those who do not respond to those signals and choose to ignore market dictates are penalized. As you see, through markets and prices, there is no chaos, but it comes to a point that business starts producing when there is a profit, when there is an opportunity of profit, and start producing according to people's taste. Let's look at this table. This is the table for index of economic freedom for selected economies. When you look at that, the index of economic freedom, this index measures economic freedom using 10 major groupings such as trade policy, property rights, and government intervention, with each category containing more than 50 specific criteria. And the index then ranks 179 economies according to their degree of economic freedom. As you see, the most free countries, one of them is Hong Kong, Australia, Switzerland, and mostly free, United States, Taiwan, and Germany. And as you see, mostly unfree ones, the ones that are actually following command type of economies, Brazil, India, and Russia, and repressed Argentina, Iran, and North Korea. And let's talk about the another characteristics of market economy, which is technology and capital goods. In the market system, competition, freedom of choice, self-interest, and personal reward provide the opportunity and motivation for technological advance. And advanced technology and capital goods are important because the most direct methods of production are often the least efficient, and the only way to avoid that inefficiency is to rely on capital goods. So it would be ridiculous for a farmer to go at production with bare hands, and there are huge benefits to be derived from creating and using such capital equipment like tractors, storage bins for farming. And one important characteristics of the market economies is the specialization. What is specialization? It means using the resources of an individual, firm, region, or nation to produce one or a few goods or services rather than producing the entire range of goods and services. So what you do, you produce one type of good or at most two types of good, and then you exchange for other goods and services you need. Why specialization is good? Because we can think that is a division of labor. What is division of labor? It's a human specialization, and it contributes to society's output in several ways. The first one is specialization makes use of differences in ability. Specialization enables individuals to take advantage of existing differences in their abilities and skills. I'm going to give the example from the book. If Piton is strong, athletic, and good at throwing a football, and Beyoncé is beautiful, is agile, and can sing, their distribution of talents can be most efficiently used if Piton plays professional football and Beyoncé records songs and gives concerts. So everybody does what he or she does the best, and then this makes specialization makes use of differences in different abilities of the people. And the second thing important about specialization is specialization fosters learning by doing. Even if the abilities of two people are identical, specialization may still be advantageous. By devoting time to a single task, a person is more likely to develop the skills required and to improve techniques than working at a numerous different tasks. As you see, you become expert what you are doing by learning by doing. And specialization saves time. By devoting time to a single task, a person avoids the loss of time incurred in shifting from one job to another. And for all these reasons, specialization increases the total output society derives from limited resources. And we can talk about specialization not only between the people, but that also works on a regional or international basis. I will follow the example in the book. You know that you can grow oranges in Nebraska, but because of unsuitability of the land, rainfall, and temperature, the cost will be very high. And it's conceivable that wheat can be grown in Florida, but such production would be costly for similar geographical reasons. So Nebraskans do not choose to produce orange, but they choose to produce wheat. And then Floridians do the same. They choose to produce orange. And then the excess amount that they produce are actually they do for exchange. So they do what? Nebraskans and Floridians exchange wheat for oranges or oranges for wheat. Similarly, on an international scale, the United States specializes in producing such items as commercial aircraft and software, which it sells abroad in exchange for video cameras from Japan, bananas from Honduras, and other stuff from China. But one important thing is that exchange of goods requires barter. What is barter? Swapping goods for goods, say for wheat for oranges. But barter has a serious problem because it requires a coincidence of wants between the buyer and the seller. In our example, we assume that Nebraskans had access to trade and wanted oranges, and we assume that Floridians had access oranges to trade and wanted wheat. So an exchange occurs, but if such a coincidence of wants is missing, trade is not going to happen. Like in this table, you'll see that here on this table, Floridians want to get wheat, but they don't want to get, the Nebraskan doesn't want to get oranges. Instead, Nebraskan wants to get potatoes, but Idaho people doesn't want to get the wheat. Idaho people wants to get orange. As you see, there's no coincidence of wants between buyer and seller. So to make this happen, the trade happen, we use money, which is simply a convenient social invention to facilitate exchange of goods and services. And the last characteristics of the markets is an active but limited government. In market systems, although a market system promotes a high degree of efficiency in the use of its resources, it has some certain shortcomings called market failures. And if there is a market failure, we prefer government make the decision. Okay, we will talk about it in the following chapters. And in some cases, government cannot make a good decision. And if that happens, we talk about the government failure. Again, it's a topic of the following chapters.